Welcome to Do Crew. I'm your host, Brad Bertrand, and welcome to Do It Yourself. Today we'll be removing a jet pump. We'll be changing out a impeller and a wear ring. When you put your key on your jet ski, turn the on button, but don't crank your ski. Then pull in the left trigger, which is your IVR gate, and you reverse, and you're going to see this on your display. Push the mode button, and then you can start trimming your tab down for your bucket. You want it all the way down in the furthest position you can get it. It'll make it a lot easier to do what you need to do. There's a 13 millimeter bolt. You'll need a deep well socket. Go ahead and remove that bolt, and that's the arm that actuates your IVR bucket. Take that off. Next, you'll need a 10 millimeter small socket to take off the bolt that holds your steering Venturi, and it goes to the steering cable for your jet ski. Just one bolt. It's kind of in a tough area to get. Now that we have that steering bolt out, now we need to take the steering Venturi, or the steering quart nozzle. There's two 13 millimeter bolts that hold it in. You have to get those two bolts off to be able to get to the other two bolts that you'll need to take off the IVR gate itself. So I'm taking off both sides. It's right there in the center. You can't miss it. Now I'm taking off the IVR gate, one on each side, 13 millimeter, short well socket. Now that we have the IVR gate off, I'm using an extension with 13 millimeter deep well socket. We have 4 nuts that is holding the jet pump on. You can take the Venturi off if you want to, but I find it just easier to go ahead and pull the whole jet pump at one time and then take it off later. Now that I just about got all the nuts off, you will have to kind of work that jet pump out side to side, tap on a little bit, it'll come loose. Once you have it out, you want to make sure you have 3 O-rings. One's a O-ring with tabs, and 2 other. Make sure that they're still in place, they're not damaged. If you need to, you need to change them out. Right now I'm going to go ahead and take the Venturi off. There's 4 bolts, 13 millimeter, pretty simple stuff. Once you get the Venturi off, you have a little plastic tubes that are on one side of your jet pump. You can just slide it forward, it'll come off real easy. And then we're going to go ahead and start taking off the impeller cover. Now, when you pull off this cover, you want to make sure it's got grease, and you want to inspect it to see if you're getting water inside that cover. That's not a good thing if you are. When I first bought this jet ski, when I pulled that cover off the first time I did this, there was no grease at all from the factory or the guy who set up the ski. So that impeller cover has got to be filled full of grease. As you can see here, I filled it up. I removed the impeller boot, but they never come off that easy. That was a new one, so they usually lock tight in. So movie magic. I'm now going to take off the impeller. I've got the impeller tool, and I'm using 2 crescent wrenches, doing it on the ground. You just kind of have to hammer up on it, get it broke free, and then it'll spin right off. Most people will put their jet pump inside the freezer, leave it overnight so that it'll help for you to get the wear ring out. I've seen videos where they do it very easily. Me personally, I've never had one come out easy. There's two small screws that hold the plastic wear ring in. You got to remove those. But I've learned, I just cut my wear ring. I don't worry about it. Cut it out. Now I will freeze my wear ring overnight. I'm putting a stainless steel in this one. I will put it in the freezer where it will be easier to be put in. As you can see here, I cut that wear ring out. I set my jet pump up on two 2x4s or two 4x4s, and I use a 2x4 when I go to set the wear ring in. I use that to kind of like hammer it in. I don't have a press, but it works good. I've put it in 3-4 wear rings so far and not having any problems. Now I've got the blue locker out and I'm putting in the impeller boot back on, making sure it's got the blue Loctite on it. Yeah, I'm putting back on the impeller cover. I made sure it's full of grease. I put Loctite, blue Loctite on all my bolts. One thing I forgot to mention earlier, when you pull your jet pump off, make sure you have something that can keep your shaft supported. I usually use a 2x4, a little small piece, and I'll just kind of keep that shaft level. I'll chalk it up. You don't want that shaft hanging down. There is a oil seal on the inside, on the other end of that shaft, that you don't want to do any damage to or maybe bend. Especially if this is going to be an overnight thing, you're putting your jet pump in the freezer. You definitely don't want no pressure on that seal. So make sure you chalk it up. Make sure your O-rings are still in place. And when you torque your 13mm brass nuts, you need to torque up to 20 foot-pounds. And you will torque your Venturi to 18 foot-pounds. All right, I put my Venturi on and I'm getting them torqued down to 18 foot-pounds. All right, now I'm putting back on the IVR gate. Two 13mm bolts. Make sure you use your blue Loctite, one on each side. And you can go ahead and hook up the arm, that actuator for the IVR gate at this time as well, which is a 13mm bolt. While I'm turning wrenches, we'll be putting out more how-to videos on do-it-yourself here in the upcoming weeks. Alright, we got two more 13mm bolts goes in on the steering Venturi. And then we have one 10mm bolt will go on the steering cable. And then we'll be done right there. Thanks for watching.